You're listening to the Wrestle Havoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the Wrestle Havoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes with the Wrestle Havoc Podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite from January 11th, 2022. We have a lot of things to talk about right here on the Dynamite Review. AEW returns to Los Angeles for the second time. Of course, the first time they were at the Forum, they had the infamous MJF pipe bomb promo. Now, in this show had multiple bangers. Of course, we had Bryan Danielson versus Konosuke Takeshita, Jon Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page. I'm absolutely really enjoying what they're doing with this whole feud. We also had match 7 in the best of 7 series with the Elite versus Death Triangle for the AEW Trios titles, and it was absolutely amazing. That ladder match was freaking ESCALERA de la Muerte, of course. But we also had Bebe. Adam Cole Bebe returns to All Elite Wrestling, and the promo that he cut was definitely amazing. I love how, originally when he first cut that promo, you the viewer were really worried about what he was going to say because the severity of Adam Cole's injury was really high. It was a bad injury that he suffered at Forbidden Door last year, but overall, man, it's great to see Adam Cole back, and Adam Cole is going to be back in action, which I'm definitely enjoying about this whole thing. But the other thing we had was no Mercedes. Yes, the women's tag team match that was hyped for almost a month. Yes, and I said it, for almost a month. And we got no Mercedes Moné on this show. I was definitely disappointed about that, but I will give you guys my thoughts about the whole thing right here on the Wrestle Havoc Podcast. But before I get on with everything with AEW Dynamite, make sure to like and subscribe to the Wrestle Havoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the Wrestle Havoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts, so if you guys want to listen to the Wrestle Havoc Podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. Also, if you guys notice, the light strips are not on. So if I look a little weird, if the camera looks a little weird, that's because of the fact that the lighting is not behind me. That's because I have a little bit of technical difficulties with these things, so I have to go on and fix that. And another thing is, yesterday, I was actually supposed to come out with episode 3 of the Wrestle Havoc Podcast, and I was filming it, and within an hour of me speaking, OBS and my entire computer just completely froze on me, and I lost the video that I was filming, so I have to do that all over again. So I will be uploading episode 3 of the Wrestle Havoc Podcast. That will be the main channel, in which I talk about the whole Vince McMahon fiasco and the sale of World Wrestling Entertainment. It is a big story. Do I like the fact that Vince McMahon is back? Absolutely not. The rumors were swirling that they sold to Saudi Arabia. We do not know who the buyer of World Wrestling Entertainment is. Apparently, the Khan family, Shad Khan and Toni Khan, are on the list. That doesn't mean they will buy. Are on the list of potential buyers. Do I think they will buy WWE? Absolutely not. I think that's not really a good idea in my eyes, because that is a pure example of monopolizing the industry. So I do not believe these reports whatsoever, although it is an interesting scenario, and that means we would live in an alternate universe if that actually happened. But I will be talking about that on episode 3 of the Wrestle Havoc Podcast. Now, the way I'm going to schedule these videos, I'm still not sure yet. So hopefully by the end of this weekend, I get a schedule set up so I can, upload these videos at an exact time frame, because one thing that I am not really good at is scheduling things. So, yeah. that is something that I have to work on. But yeah, man, we got AEW Dynamite. Of course, it's live at the Kia Forum, and we have Jon Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page in the first match. Overall, this match was an absolute banger. Jon Moxley and Hangman Page, the angle that they're working on here, I absolutely love. I love the storyline between the two. I think it's a feud that will be not only interesting, but definitely compelling. I think the story that they told in the ring was really good. The story, the athleticism, the brutality of everything just meshed together. Not only that, you had the crowd just going absolutely ballistic because they know that this show is a very, very important show. And of course, after the match, Jon Moxley got knocked out, and that's of course progressing the story that they're telling. But let's go deep down into the match. Both brawl as soon as the bell rings. We get a clothesline in the corner by Mox. Hangman goes for a boot into the corner. We get repeated elbows by Hangman, followed by a chop, and then Mox goes for a chop. So both exchange chops at this point. Then Mox takes him down to the mat, and then he drives his boot on Hangman, but then Hangman gets taken to the top. Moxley goes up as well. We get a couple of shots to the back of Hangman, and then he proceeds to bite the back of Hangman Page on the top. And then Mox hits a superplex after that. We get a cover by Moxley and a near fall. Moxley then applies the armbar, followed by a roll-up by Hangman, and we get a near fall. Hangman rolls him up again, but then Moxley escapes. Moxley manages to hit a German suplex, but after that, he goes for another German suplex as well. Hangman goes for a throw on Moxley, but then Hangman gets taken to the guardrail, which is a new guardrail, by the way. They don't have those old school barred guardrails anymore, which I dug, but I understand why they changed it because, you know, those barred guardrails are like, you know, really old school. But it's a new style of guardrail, I will say. It's a new barricade. I'm going to call it a barricade now because a lot of people tend to think, you know, it is a barricade, but like really those are guardrails. But yeah, they have a new barricade now. Mox works on Hangman on the outside. Moxley then sends him back into the ring, but then Hangman goes back out and hits a lariat on Moxley. Now, hitting the lariat is going to be a common thing in this match because there was lariats thrown left and right. Both go back in the ring, but then Mox comes back and hits a furious lariat, another lariat after that. So he hits a lariat on Mox, and then Hangman fires back with a lariat of his own. Again, common theme of this match. Then he goes for the cover again, and we get a near fall. Moxley then goes for repeated rights. After that, once we're back from commercial break, Mox is in control. He continues on. Hangman goes for an overhead suplex, but then Hangman tries to hit the lariat on Mox. Both exchange elbows. Mox follows up by a boot, and then at this point, Hangman yells at Moxley, telling him, "Is that what you got?" Hangman then catches Mox and hits a fall-away slam after that. Hangman then gets back up on his feet, but then Hangman goes for a clothesline in the corner. We get a German suplex by Mox, countered by Hangman into a lariat. Then after that, Hangman boots Mox onto the outside, but then Hangman climbs up to the top. He manages to hit a moonsault on the outside, but then Hangman misses the buckshot lariat. Moxley manages to hit the Death Rider. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Moxley then drives his elbows on Hangman. Typical Blackpool Combat Club elbows. After that, he applies the Bulldog choke and then drives his elbows again. He applies the choke once again, but then Hangman gets back up. Moxley then picks him up for the pile driver. We get a cover and a 1 count. Yeah, Moxley hit a pile driver on Hangman, and he goes for the cover, and it was a 1 count. Hangman immediately kicked out. Some people did not like that. Some people dug that. I'll admit, I dug it. Even though it kind of made no sense, but I dug it. We get repeated kicks by Moxley. Moxley flips off the crowd in heel fashion, but Moxley's a babyface, so it's typical Moxley fashion for him to flip off the crowd. He doesn't really give a damn. I mean, in New Jersey at Full Gear, I mean, he was kind of the heel there, even though he was a babyface, but everybody still loves Moxley. Hangman wants to go for the Deadeye, but then Mox counters and applies a sleeper. Mox then takes Hangman for a pile driver, but then Hangman goes for the Deadeye, but then Mox gets back up on his feet. After that, he hits the stomp, but then Hangman and Mox exchange elbows. Then we get a couple of headbutts by Mox. Then Hangman headbutts him back. We both exchange slaps. Yes, they're going for open hand slaps. After that, both exchange slaps. Hangman goes for the lariat, and then he goes onto the apron, but then Hangman goes for the buckshot lariat. We get a cover, and Hangman wins the match and beats Jon Moxley clean. Overall thoughts on this match. This match was everything that I wanted it to be. Hangman Page versus Jon Moxley. The story that they told, the athleticism, the brutality, everything about it, the atmosphere, all of those things meshed into one. That is what made that match so special, because both guys gave it their all, and the story that they told in the ring definitely mattered. Keep in mind, this was the story, the whole feud of Jon Moxley versus Hangman Page started off reality. It basically kicked off with something that happened in real life, because if you guys do not remember, when they were in Cincinnati for that Tuesday Night Dynamite show a couple of months ago before Full Gear, Moxley hit a lariat on Hangman Page, in which Hangman was legit injured from that. So basically, that's the whole gist of the story. That's what really made this match matter, and that's why I really enjoyed this match. And they even progressed with the storyline even after the match ended. So after the match, Mox is being attended to by people like, of course, Doc Samson and all that stuff. And it looks like Moxley was knocked out from the lariat that Hangman hit. So they're definitely playing the story of Moxley hit the lariat on Hangman, in which it knocked him out. Now, basically, Hangman came back for quote-unquote retaliation in a match and hit the lariat, and it knocked out Mox. I love that type of shit. Simplicity matters, in my opinion, when it comes to storylines, because if you don't really have that simplicity, you're kind of having a lot of things that are like convoluted and stuff. But this is what I want to say to all the critics. It's okay to be critical of AEW. I am critical of them all the frickin' time. I will be critical of them in this review. But this is what I'm going to say. For those that say AEW has no storylines whatsoever, those are the same people that do not even know what a storyline or an angle is in wrestling. Period. Because the feud between Jon Moxley and Hangman Page, there was a story told. The whole story was based off of the lariat that Mox hit on Hangman Page months prior. And now Mox is now knocked out because of Hangman's lariat after this match. So for those that are saying that AEW does not have any storylines, again, they are the same people that do not even know what a storyline is in wrestling. AEW has a lot of storylines. The story with MJF and Bryan Danielson is an absolute great story to tell because of the whole William Regal stuff. But whatever. Overall, this was a great match, in my opinion. I definitely enjoyed it. Tony Schiavone is in the ring. So Tony Schiavone is in the ring, and he says he's going to be interviewing somebody that he does not really like. Now, you would immediately think that it's going to be MJF, considering the fact that, number one, MJF is the world champion, and that he was announced for this show. But no, it was not MJF. If anything, it was Adam Cole, baby. Adam Cole finally makes his return to AEW, and the pop that Adam Cole got was absolutely amazing. The pop that he got was just absolutely insane. It has gone to the point when he was walking down to the ring, the fans were singing the theme song, the Mikey Ruckus theme song of Adam Cole. And his theme song is, by the way, fucking amazing. That song is so catchy. Adam Cole is just super over, man. Adam Cole is the definition of a main event guy. He is the definition of a main event guy. A lot of people viewed him when he was in the WWE, when he was in NXT, as a WrestleMania main eventer. That's how good Adam Cole is. And the fact that Adam Cole got this amazing reaction after coming back after, 6 months of injury, because he got injured at Forbidden Door in that 4-way for the IWGP World title with Okada, Jay White, and Hangman. So it's great to see Adam Cole back. So he's in the ring. And the first thing he says, of course, is, who is ready for story time with Adam Cole, baby? Talks about how he's been thinking about this all day, about what he was going to say. And says the best way to describe this is that there are good news and there are bad news. He has a whole new appreciation for not only wrestling, but life as a whole. Talks about how when he was 9, he always wanted to be a pro wrestler. And right now he is wrestling for the best pro wrestling company, AEW, in Los Angeles. And talks about how the past few months he was banged up. Talks about how all the injuries he had. Of course, he had the bad concussion. He had 2 back-to-back injuries. He was scared. He was seeing doctors almost every day. He had headaches. Talks about how he felt like he was going to vomit when he was in the car. The worst part, though, was sleeping. He starts to get emotional at this point. He gets emotional and talks about how Britt Baker was constantly worried about the health of Adam Cole as well. After that, talks about how nobody knew what happened to him, and still all of the people were there for him. He's been reading all of the messages that the fans sent out, and some of the messages were to an extent of, I don't care if Adam Cole never wrestles again. I hope that he is okay. And says that meant the world to him. Wrestling is a give and take sport. They give us everything that they have, and he gave them nothing for 6 months, but they still gave him everything. And he thanks the fans to a standing ovation after this. And now here's the good part. So after he cut that portion of the promo, you had, I was worried a lot because the severity of Adam Cole's injury was just, not good at all. I believe there was an update by Dave Meltzer a couple of months ago saying that, the recovery process has not been going well. But I was really worried. And before he said, right after he said the bad news, I was like, oh, crap. I don't want him to announce his retirement and stuff. So after that, he talks about the bad news. And Adam Cole puts his head down. He puts his head down and he says, the thing is, the bad news is not for him. The bad news is for the entire AEW locker room because Adam Cole is back. And after that, he says he's not going anywhere. He thought his career was over, but he thought for sure he was finished. But he stands here saying, no way, I ain't done yet. He hasn't even scratched the surface of what he is capable of in AEW. And he wants us to remember this day. The new Adam Cole is born. And Adam Cole, who will make a promise, one day he will be the top of the mountain. And his name is Adam Cole, puts down his mic, baby. Overall, man, this segment, was absolutely amazing. A guy like Adam Cole, when he came to AEW, everybody was hyped around this guy, including myself. A lot of people were saying that, oh my God, Adam Cole was not being utilized well. I tend to disagree. Because of the fact that they have long-term plans when it comes to their world championship, you can't just immediately give a guy a world championship. If anything, Adam Cole's run so far in AEW before he got injured has been so far great. He was in that match against Hangman Page. The matches that he's had with Orange Cassidy and Hangman Page was fantastic. I don't understand why people were complaining about Adam Cole. But Adam Cole getting injured was definitely a big blow in my opinion, because I definitely felt that they had plans with Adam Cole, not only with Adam Cole, but with the Elite. Because I remember one of my biggest predictions of 2022 was we were going to be getting the Undisputed Elite versus the Elite. They were going to be feuding, and Kenny Omega, once he comes back, he's going to be feuding with Adam Cole. And now that's definitely the possibility, but we do not know the circumstances about that. But the fact that Adam Cole is back is just absolutely, I'm really happy about that, and I'm definitely excited to see what AEW does with Adam Cole. All the potential feuds that he could have with people like Kenny, with people like Eddie Kingston, with people like MJF. Now, do I think that, that could be one of the feuds for MJF in the future? Yes. Do I think it will happen now? Absolutely not. Of course, MJF is currently in a feud with Bryan Danielson, but I definitely see that, happening down the road. A lot of people were clamoring for, Adam Cole to have a TNT championship run, which, if anything, if there's one person that the TNT championship needs at this point, now granted it has Darby Allin, and I think the state of the TNT championship is in a much healthier place than it was last year, because last year the entire TNT title scene was a complete shitstorm. But if there's anybody to hold the TNT championship, it's definitely Adam Cole. Great stuff in my opinion, but man, we finally got Adam Cole back, And AEW, their roster, is definitely coming together well. I mean, their roster was always well, but they were definitely hammered with a lot of injuries this past summer. Like, I will say this, the summer going into the fall of 2022 was definitely a rough few months for AEW, but I genuinely feel that they recovered. Did they fully recover? No, there's still some hiccups then and there, but I feel like they definitely recovered smoothly. Did it take a while? Yeah, I feel like it did take a while, but overall I feel like they recovered and they're just doing, they're back to business basically. But Adam Cole is back, and overall you and I love to see it. It's great to see. I'm excited. We have the AEW World Tag Team Champions, The Acclaimed, of course, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, along with Billy Gunn, a.k.a. Daddy Ass. They talk about how they will be amongst the biggest names in showbiz history. Roseanne Barr, Alec Baldwin, Donald Trump, and then Anthony Bowens just slows his roll, and and, of course, Johnny Depp. And they talk about how the Hollywood Walk of Fame Board of Directors have unanimously voted The Acclaimed and Daddy Ass to receive stars on the Walk of Fame. When he said unanimously, at first I didn't really hear what he was saying, because some of these backstage segments you can't really hear a lot what the wrestlers are saying, considering the fact that, if you have a lot of shit happening around you and, like, it's loud in the house or some shit like that, like, you can't really hear these backstage segments. But I didn't really care until I went on Twitter and I found out he said unanimously, and I'm like, oh my God, he mentioned the whole Vince McMahon stuff, because if anything, Vince McMahon was voted unanimously back to the board of directors, and he's now executive chairman. So that was pretty funny that they added that there. I mean, all the memes that I saw regarding the whole Vince McMahon stuff was pretty funny. A lot of people say, oh my God, Max Caster is going to go for a crazy ass rap on Wednesday. But I believe he did do a rap on the Rampage tapings, and I think he botched it. I saw the video. He botched the rap and then went back and did it again, which is pretty funny. But you got to love The Acclaimed. The Acclaimed is one of those tag teams, man, that are just so over with the crowd, that AEW has utilized so well, in my opinion, that I feel like they're going to hold those tag team titles for a long ass time, because I do not think that their momentum has derailed. A lot of people are very critical, and to an extent rightfully so, of AEW by, derailing someone's momentum. For example, Wardlow, I think his momentum was, he had amazing momentum when he was in that feud with MJF, but then right after, when he won the TNT Championship, they were really doing nothing with Wardlow, and I feel like Wardlow has just gone down the tubes in my eyes. They've been doing nothing with Wardlow, but The Acclaimed is not an exception to that. The Acclaimed is definitely the exception. Their momentum is still fantastic, and they are so over with the crowd. I absolutely love it. We have Hook and Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Lee Moriarty and W. Morrissey, a.k.a. Big Bill, which Big Bill, I'm sorry, I don't like that name. Big Bill. So yeah, Jungle Hook, as the tag team is. Overall, pretty fine match. It was not really it was nothing special. Hooked and Jungle Boy looked great. Of course, they were the stars of this match, and the moment of this match was when Hook basically threw across the ring Big Bill. So Lee Moriarty and Jack Perry start. Both exchange chops. We get an overhand chop by Jack Perry, followed by a drop kick by Lee Moriarty, or I should say on Lee Moriarty. Hook tags in. We get a double back elbow by both Hook and Jungle Boy. We get a roll up by Lee, followed by a shoulder tackle by Hook. Jack tags in. Hook throws Lee across the ring, but then we get a cover by Jack into near fall. Jack then goes for a suicide dive onto the outside, but he was about to chokeslam him onto the apron, but Hook makes the save. Later on in the match, Jungle Boy counters Lee with a powerbomb. He tries to tag Hook, but then Lee drags him back, but then Hook manages to tag Jungle Boy. After that, he hits a clothesline on Lee. He takes out Big Bill. Hook hits a Northern-like suplex. After that, we get a cover into near fall. Hook and Big Bill face off. After that, he tries to pick up Bill, but then we get a kick by Jack on Bill, followed by a dropkick off the top of the back of Bill, and then Hook throws this man across the ring to a huge pop, I should say. Lee then comes in. He rolls up Jungle Boy, but then Jack Perry rolls him up back. We get a near fall. Then it applies the snare trap. After that, Lee taps out, and Hook and Jungle Boy win the match. Great stuff overall by both Hook and Jack Perry. Are they going to keep these guys together, or is this only a one-time thing? A lot of people were hyped about the whole Hookhausen thing, if you guys do not remember last year, but that didn't really last long. Honestly, I hope they keep this whole Jack Perry and Hook dynamic going. I think it can work, and I think the fans really love it. Definitely, I think they can definitely work great together, in my opinion. And if anything, this match definitely shows that they can. So yeah, that was Hook and Jack Perry versus Lee Moriarty and Big Bill. I still do not like that name. We got Orange Cassidy and Danhausen in a backstage interview. Someone with their Golden Globe Award shows up. I do not know who this actor is. Now, he did state his name, but I didn't write it down on my notes, so my apologies. I do not follow stuff like the Golden Globe Awards. I just don't follow any award shows anyway. Like, I don't follow the Emmys. Like, I just don't care about that type of stuff. But, yeah, man, he shows up, and he says he's going to be there on Rampage, so great. Now we got the better stuff. We got Bryan Danielson versus Konosuke Takeshita. Takeshita, of course, is a rising prospect in AEW. I believe he did sign a full-time AEW contract this past November, and he's now going to be a part of AEW, which is absolutely great, man. I'm a big fan of Konosuke Takeshita. Ever since he first debuted last year, Konosuke Takeshita is absolutely amazing. But right after Konosuke Takeshita makes his entrance, what happens? MJF, the world champion, the Triple B, shows up and cuts a promo as he always does. Now, I'm going to state the promo that MJF cut because MJF's promo was absolutely hilarious. It was one of the funniest promos that I've ever seen, in my opinion. It was that funny. I laughed my ass off. So he cuts a promo. He says, "Daddy is holding the microphone." And MJF he turns over to Konosuke Takeshita and says, "Konnichiwa." He's been watching Twitter and Reddit recently, and these people on Twitter and Reddit think that he is a big deal. And then MJF acts like one of these fans, I don't want to say e-drones because I feel like nobody uses that word anymore, but he sounds like one of these people. He says he hasn't seen a lick of his stuff, and every time when he watches stuff back, he fast forwards and he only wants to see the only thing that matters, and that is, of course, himself, because he is MJF. He calls Takeshita "take a shitta," which was funny. I laughed my ass off. And then he tells Takeshita, try not to take a shit and actually win the match. Because, of course, there's a lot of stakes in this match. From now until February 8th, Bryan Danielson has to win all of his matches. And after Bryan Danielson wins all his matches, he can get a title shot with MJF in a 1-hour Iron Man match at Revolution March 5th, which is, by the way, my birthday. So I'm going to have a treat right there on my birthday. We got an Iron Man match, most likely. It will definitely happen. So he calls him "take a shit" and says, try not to take a shit, and wins the match. So then Takeshita gets the microphone, and he speaks in Japanese, and MJF immediately replies to Takeshita, right here, we speak American. And then Takeshita replies in English, kiss my ass. That was funny. And then MJF then continues on to cut a promo. And Takeshita, of course, goes to the outside. And MJF continues to cut his promo and says he calls LA, Los Angeles, a bunch of nerds. And says, here's a rumor that he has heard all around, that he is afraid of Bryan Danielson, that he can't last an hour. Is that right? And MJF asks the question, ask your mama, sister, and scape girlfriend just how long MJF can last. Typical MJF shit right there. Says that he is the real Iron Man of professional wrestling. And unlike Danielson, he's about pinning shoulders to the mat and banging rats. Did he offend everyone? Is it because you like Danielson? Much like Bryan, we are all irrelevant. And he talks about all the celebrities that are in attendance at the Kia Forum. He says Ken Jeong is in the building. Talks about how he was Mr. Chow from The Hangover. What was it, 20 years ago? He also has a series on ABC called Dr. Ken. Oh, wait, he doesn't, because it got canceled. That was funny as fuck. Then we have Freddie Prinze Jr. Yes, he plays Fred in Scooby-Doo in the old Scooby-Doo movies, the one that came out in 2002. I remember. I grew up with those movies. So Freddie Prinze Jr. is in the house. Talks about how he was from She's All That, but MJF was born in 1996, and unlike all of us fans, he ain't a dinosaur. And the only thing that he remembers him was from playing a supporting character to a CGI dog, and he proceeds to call Freddie Prinze Jr. a Scooby-Dooby douchebag. That was the funniest shit that I've ever heard, man. Like, MJF again, man. Like, MJF is just that damn good at what he does. That was the funniest shit ever. So after he calls him a Scooby-Dooby douchebag, he talks about how there will be no 1 hour Iron Man match because because his name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and he says that he is better than us, and we know it. But then Bryan Danielson's music hits, and Danielson runs to the ring. As soon as he slides in the ring, MJF immediately retreats, and I will tell you how fast this man ran. This man ran as fast as Sonic the Hedgehog. As soon as Danielson went in the ring, this man dipped, which was, I laughed my ass off at that as well. So we finally got the match, but before we get on with Takeshita and Bryan Danielson, let's talk about MJF a little bit before we get on. MJF is everything that MJF does, man. He is just that damn good at his job, and he is that damn good at what he does. He's probably the best promo, and I will be the guy to say it, man. You can call me biased, you can call me a shill, whatever the hell you want. MJF is the best speaker, the best talker, and the best promo, even though those three things are the exact same in professional wrestling. This man, a lot of people tend to criticize MJF for being too repetitive all the time, but every time when he comes in the ring, every sentence that MJF states on that freaking microphone, he wants you to feel what he is saying. He wants you to bring that emotion, because MJF, every time when he speaks, he brings emotion, and he wants the viewer that is watching on television to bring that emotion. That is how good MJF is, and overall, man, MJF is just the man, whether you like it or not. That's all I'm going to say. But Konosuke Takeshita versus Bryan Danielson starts, of course. This is the first match of 6 matches. What was it? No, not 6 matches. What am I talking about? This is one of the first matches of many, all the way until February 8th, of course. If he wins all of those matches, he will get a title shot against MJF at the Revolution pay-per-view in San Francisco. So the match starts, and I will say this match was a fucking banger. This match was so good. Takeshita looked great. Bryan Danielson made Konosuke Takeshita look so good. People have a tendency to think that just because a wrestler loses, they are immediately buried. That is far from the truth. If a wrestler loses and, in embarrassing fashion, then that is a burial. If a wrestler loses after putting up an amazing fight against his opponent, that is not a burial, ladies and gentlemen. If anything, that made that wrestler look much, much stronger. That is basically what they did with Konosuke Takeshita. Takeshita looked so fucking good in this match against Bryan Danielson that, holy shit, Takeshita is a legit big deal. Now, I will say this. Takeshita has been losing his matches. I will say that. And I think it's time, for Takeshita to start winning those matches, in my opinion. But overall, man, this match was great. So we get a bunch of technical wrestling by both. He tries to go for the Romero special, and then Danielson actually applies it. He goes under the chin and applies the Dragon Sleeper. Takeshita then escapes. We get an elbow by Takeshita, followed by a chop by Danielson. We get repeated chops. We get a forearm by Takeshita. Both exchange chops. We get a bunch of chops and kicks by Danielson. We get a jumping clothesline by Takeshita. We get a couple of kicks by Danielson, followed by an overhead throw by Danielson. Danielson then applies the short arm scissor, and then Takeshita goes for repeated elbow strikes. Danielson tries to go for the label lock, but then Takeshita gets his foot on the rope. We get a couple of chops and kicks by Danielson into the corner. Danielson goes for the running knees, but then Takeshita counters for the third time with a blue thunder bomb. Shades of Sami Zayn right there. We get a chop by Takeshita, followed by a second chop, and then we get a third chop. After that, Danielson goes for the elbow strike. Both exchange chops at this point. Once we're back from commercial break, both are on the top. Takeshita hits a fucking lariat on Danielson off the top. Then we get a cover and near fall. He picks up Danielson, but then Danielson takes Takeshita to the outside. Danielson then goes for what it looked like the head scissors. Now, it wasn't head scissors because the head scissors is basically a Hurricane Rana. It was kind of an extension of that on the outside. We get a couple of kicks by Danielson. Takeshita goes for a brain buster. Yes, a brain buster on the floor. Once we're back in the ring, we get a senton by Takeshita, but then Bryan Danielson gets the knees up. Then he manages to apply the label lock after that. Takeshita then makes it to the bottom rope, but then we get repeated kicks by Danielson. Takeshita then counters the elbow. Both exchange shots once again. Then he goes for the elbow, followed by a lariat. Danielson then ducks the knee strike by Takeshita. He drives his elbows Blackpool Combat Club style. Of course, Bryan Danielson is a part of the Blackpool Combat Club. But back to the match. He drives his elbows, and then Takeshita counters and picks him up. Then he drives him down to the mat, and then he holds on and hits a fucking German suplex. He hits a fucking German suplex. We get a cover by Takeshita, and we get a freaking near fall. That was an insane. That German suplex looked smooth as fuck. I will say that. That German that Takeshita hit was smooth as hell. We get a couple of back elbows by Danielson. After that, Takeshita, he goes for a shot onto the back of the neck. After that, Danielson escapes. Danielson then hits the Busaiku knee. After that, we get a cover and a kick out. Yes, Takeshita kicked out after the Busaiku knee. And then Danielson kicks Takeshita's head in. He applies the submission, and Danielson beats Konosuke Takeshita in the first of many matches and possibly many bangers that Bryan Danielson will have in order to get his world title shot against MJF at the Revolution pay-per-view. Overall, what are my thoughts on this whole thing, this whole match? Perfection. This match was amazing. Bryan Danielson is amazing at what he does. Konosuke Takeshita. Now, I heard a report that says that AEW has big plans for Konosuke Takeshita. Dude, I'm not the only one that says this. A lot of major podcasters have stated this, and I absolutely agree. Put the fucking All-Atlantic title on Konosuke Takeshita. Like, put the All-Atlantic title on this dude, because Konosuke Takeshita is just amazing. He a lot of people say, oh, all wrestlers wrestle the same. I tend to disagree. If wrestlers wrestle the same way, one thing that you can't take away from these wrestlers is that they try to add their own unique spin on that same style, in my opinion. And that's basically the whole definition of Konosuke Takeshita. He brings his own unique style to the actual style of wrestling that he wrestles. And that's what makes Konosuke Takeshita really good. And that's what made him look good in this match against Bryan Danielson. This match was absolutely fantastic. And next week, we will be getting Bryan Danielson versus Bandito. I'm excited. By the way, that match is going to be a banger. For all the people that are saying, where the fuck is Bandito? He's going to be on Dynamite next week, and he's going to be wrestling Bryan Danielson, and that match is going to be a banger. Now, I know I sound cringeworthy, but I don't care. I'm excited because that match is going to be fucking amazing. All right. Juice Robinson is backstage with Renee Paquette. Says that he is here to kick ass and take names, and he challenges Darby Allin for the TNT Championship on Rampage. We get Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker versus Toni Storm and Saraya. Now, this match has been hyped up for almost a month. This match was announced weeks, and I mean weeks in advance. Speculation around this match was Mercedes was going to be Saraya's mystery tag team partner. Last week, we had a small backstage sit-down interview with Renee Paquette with Saraya, Hikaru Shida, and Toni Storm. And Saraya basically gave away her partner for the match that happened here. And that partner ended up being Toni Storm. Okay. Here is my take on Mercedes Moné not showing up on AEW Dynamite. I am 50-50 with the whole thing. On one hand, I blame AEW for, number one, announcing this match weeks in advance, but also at the same time having Britt Baker basically drop the boss line on Dynamite last week. So it kind of like in a way told the fans that, hey, you know, Mercedes is going to show up without telling you that Mercedes was going to show up. Now, it's safe to say that AEW did not advertise Mercedes Moné. So I will give them that. They did not advertise Mercedes Moné at all. But AEW is known to play with the fans a lot and kind of give you small teases. They are known to give you small teases. They did that with CM Punk. Of course, you guys do not remember, Sting and Darby Allin were backstage, and he says, you know, I will be in Chicago at the United Center even if you think you are the best in the world. Even if you knew, like, they were, oh shit, they're bringing in CM Punk. You know, the Britt Baker boss line was in a way kind of very similar to that, but the fact that they announced this match weeks in advance, the viewer watching at home would instantly think, oh shit, it's Mercedes. Now, on the other hand, I also blame whoever reported that said, oh yeah, Mercedes is definitely showing up at the Forum next Wednesday. Because I believe it is the same reporter that broke the news that WWE was purchased by Saudi Arabia, and then the next day, Ariel Helwani debunked those rumors. So that is a double botch right there. That is a double botch. But at the same time, now that's the first 50 portion. Now that looked like a 50-50 portion, but that was the first 50 portion of it. The other 50 is I blame us fans. I blame all of us fans. The IWC tends to overhype a lot of shit. They tend to overhype a lot of things, and I'm guilty of it. You know, I genuinely thought that Mercedes was going to actually show up, because if anything, when they announced Toni Storm as Saraya's partner, you had Hikaru Shida give a pissed off look in her face. Now, Wrestling 101 would dictate, if they would tease something like that, that clearly means that Hikaru Shida is going to possibly attack Toni Storm before the match even starts. But that did not happen in this match. But at the same time, I blame us fans because we overhyped this thing too much, even though AEW did not announce this, did not announce Mercedes whatsoever. So I'm 50-50 with Mercedes not showing up on Dynamite. Do I think that the fans were so pissed off that they immediately got turned off watching the show? No. Do I think they were pissed off? Yes. But at the same time, this whole Dynamite card was just so damn good that you really couldn't get pissed off. But at the same time, we got Mercedes, you know, we didn't get Mercedes Moné on the show, even though AEW announced this match months prior. So again, I am 50-50 with the whole thing. Look, on one half, I blame AEW for announcing this match, you know, weeks in advance, and Britt Baker dropping the boss line. But at the same time, I blame us fans because we overhyped it too much, and it's basically typical IWC. The IWC, including myself, I blame myself as well. We overhyped this shit. So I'm on the fence about it. I'm 50-50 about it. Was I pissed off that we didn't get Mercedes last night? Yeah, I was. Do I think Mercedes will show up in AEW? I think so. Now, is she going to sign there? I'm not sure. She's going to be wrestling Kairi Sane at the Battle of the Valley show, which is New Japan show in February. And most likely she will win the IWGP Women's World Championship. Now, I still think she will show up in AEW. A lot of people are saying she will probably show up at Revolution. That could be true, but at the end of the day, that is just pure speculation, and we do not know. So that is my stance on Mercedes Moné not showing up on this show. So we got Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker versus Toni Storm and Saraya. It was a fine match, not the best match overall. Saraya goes for a cannonball into the outside. Saraya is the legal woman. She drives her knee on Jamie Hayter. Saraya is in control. We get a cover anti-near fall. Storm then tags in. We get a double suplex attempt, but Jamie counters with a double suplex on both Saraya and Toni Storm, which looked great. Jamie Hayter is absolutely amazing. Storm then comes in. Britt tags in. Britt then drops Storm onto the apron. She hits a neck breaker onto the floor. After that, Saraya sends Jamie onto the steps, but then Jamie then sends Saraya onto the guardrail. Hikaru Shida then comes in. And once we're back from break, Saraya goes after Britt Baker, followed by a knee strike into the corner. Saraya then goes for what it looked like a kneecap, or a nightcap as they called it on commentary. After that, we get a cover into near fall. We get a kick by Britt, but then Saraya counters with the air raid crash. We get a knee strike by Saraya. We get a cover and a near fall, but then Storm tags in. We get a couple of hip attacks by Toni Storm. After that, we get a tornado DDT on Britt Baker. We get a cover and a near fall. At this point, Storm is on the top rope, but then Britt is on the middle rope, but then Jamie takes out Saraya. Britt then goes for the air raid crash off the top, which looked pretty sick. We get a cover and a near fall. Jamie Hayter then tags in. She goes for the hate breaker. After that, Saraya comes in, and then Saraya gets taken to the outside. We get a German suplex by Toni Storm, followed by the Storm Zero. We get a cover and a near fall. Saraya then comes in. Britt then goes for the butterfly, but then Storm goes for a kick on Britt Baker. Storm and then Jamie Hayter fight it out. Both knock each other out. After that, Rebel is on the apron, but then Shida slides the kendo stick in the ring, and then Britt hits it on Toni Storm. Jamie Hayter goes for the clothesline or the lariat. We get a cover, and the heels get the win. What are my thoughts on this whole thing? It was a fine match. Was it terrible? No. I don't want to say I was turned off. I was just disappointed in the fact that we had all this hype around Mercedes, even though AEW did not announce it. So you can't really blame them for that. I was just not in the right headspace that we didn't get Mercedes Moné show up on this show. But, yeah, man, it looks like Hikaru Shida will turn heel. And the look that she gave, she was like, oh, my God, I messed up. But she is definitely turning heel in the near future. I definitely see that. Here's one segment that I did not like. And this is coming from a fan of both Ricky Starks and the Jericho Appreciation Society. We had this Jericho Appreciation Society segment, and it started off promising, but I just did not like this promo. I don't know why. There was something about this promo that just, I'm not going to say turn me off the show because that's completely impossible when it comes to AEW, in my opinion. But I don't know. I just did not like this segment. Something about this segment just did not, it just didn't, how do I put it into words? It just didn't flow what a normal Jericho Appreciation Society segment would be. It just didn't flow for me. I didn't necessarily enjoy this segment. Angelo Parker says that they all look good. They all should start calling Los Angeles their town, and they are the Saints of LA. And Daddy Magic, of course, says, what makes Daddy Magic's nipples hard? He talks about how last week, Jake Hager powerbombed Starks through a table. Jericho says that they were at the Battle of Los Angeles PWG show, which was actually really dope. The fact that they actually invaded a PWG show. On Rampage, Anna and Ty Conti, or Ty Mello, are going to kick Willow and Ruby's ass in a street fight. And after that, Starks comes out, or they said that the Ricky Starks experiment is over. It goes to show you how, I am completely botching left and right reading over this segment. Again, I was completely, turned off when it came to this segment. Starks says that he is standing tall now. Jericho then tells Action Andretti to go back to where he came from. Andretti tells Jericho to shut up before he shoves that baseball bat up his ass. And he talks about Garcia immediately interrupts. He says Sammy is his babysitter. Sammy can't have control over his own wife, and says that Ty's hands were in between his legs. Garcia says that he's on top of the world because he's a sports entertainer, not a pro wrestler. Starks then targets Jake Hager and calls him a village idiot. And Hager says that he loves his hat, and I will say that is over. And he wants a match against Jake Hager. Yeah. What are my thoughts on this segment? I did not like this segment whatsoever. And again, this is coming from somebody that is a fan of both Ricky Starks and the Jericho Appreciation Society. Something about this segment, in my opinion, just did not click. And I just did not like every second of it, in my opinion. I just did not like. That was the only thing that I didn't like about this whole show. This and Mercedes not showing up. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's fast forward to an absolute certified 7-star, or I think that's a little bit too much, but a 4 or 5-star classic banger, and that being match 7 in the best of 7 series with the Elite versus Death Triangle. This match was everything that I wanted it to be. Now, what were my thoughts on the best of 7 series that AEW had between both the Elite and Death Triangle? I personally enjoyed it. Now, I knew that there was going to be a lot of criticism regarding the best of 7 series, because I knew for a fact I was going to listen to some fans saying, "Oh my God, nobody complains when AEW does rematches, but when WWE does rematches, blah blah blah, people tend to complain." Here's the thing: when Vince McMahon was in control over creative, we would have rematches left and right every week that made absolutely no sense and that nobody asked for. With this best of 7 series, you knew that you were going to be getting 7 matches in a row. You knew. Now, will I say this? Was it starting to become a little bit stale by match 2 or 3? You could say yes. I personally enjoyed it because I was in attendance for the first match at Full Gear, and it was amazing. The second match, of course, they were in Chicago, and they did all the mocks of CM Punk, which was absolutely funny as hell. And, the later matches were kind of, but they try to spice things up, because really the story of the best of 7 series was the hammer, because of the fact that Death Triangle were using the hammer to their advantage, so they were basically cheating to win. And then they did the whole no disqualification stuff. So if you think that it was starting to become stale, I can't blame you. I can disagree with you, but I can't blame you if you think that, because it's a valid critic. It's valid criticism basically. I personally enjoyed what they were doing with the best of 7 series, and I loved how they spiced things up in the later portions of the match. In one match you'd have a no disqualification match, the next match you'd have a false count anywhere match, and you'd have a ladder match in the end. The ladder match, ESCALERA de la Muerte, was absolutely amazing. Fantastic match overall, but overall, what are my thoughts on the best of 7 series? I personally enjoyed it, but if you did not enjoy the best of 7 series, I can't really blame you either, in my opinion. In my opinion, stuff like a best of 7 series is in a way a subjective, if I were to say a subjective take to how booking philosophy works, if I were to put words all together. I think, again, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't enjoy it, but at the same time, I could disagree with you. I personally enjoyed it, but I wouldn't get mad at you if you didn't enjoy it, because you got 7 matches in a row. But let's get a couple of notes on the match before we get out of here. I didn't take, notes like, moment by moment. I kind of spread everything out because of all the craziness that was going on in this match. This match actually did not take, this match did not last long at all. I think it was 15 minutes this whole match was. Now, usually a ladder match would tend to be 20 to 25 minutes. Heck, you could even go as far as to say 30 minutes, but really, usually the normal length in my eyes of a ladder match is 20 to 25 minutes. This match was 10 to 15 minutes. But I will say, for the time that they had, this match was really good. Now, Kenny and Pat go after one another. We get a backstabber by Penta on Kenny. Then Matt comes in with a backstabber. Penta then tries to go for the Fear Factor, and then we get spot after spot after spot. Typical stuff with the Elite and Death Triangle. We get a facebuster by Nick. We get a double team by Penta and everybody else. Phoenix goes for the frog splash. Pac and Penta go for the ladder. Matt kicks the ladder on both. Nick goes over the top rope. Then we get a Cazadora reversed by Matt Jackson. Pac then gets taken to the outside. Penta goes for the all-famous and my favorite move, the Canadian Destroyer. After that, or I should say, Matt Jackson goes for the Canadian Destroyer. Matt climbs the ladder. Phoenix goes for a cutter. Phoenix then climbs up. We get a half and half by Kenny. Kenny then tries to climb up, but then Kenny goes for the Snapdragon. Pac then goes for a dropkick off the top on Kenny. After that, Kenny goes for the Snapdragon, followed by a somersault over the top rope. After that, after he tries to go for that somersault, Kenny lands on the table. Then after that, Matt goes for a crossbody through the table. After that, once we're back from break, Penta has a ladder trapped, and Nick takes out Pac onto the outside. Then Matt throws Penta on a ladder. Nick is on the top, but then Rey Fenix goes for a Hurricane Run on Nick. Nick then lands on the ladder on his back, but then Pac stomps the ladder on Kenny's head. Pac then tries to climb the ladder, but then Kenny picks him up. Then we get a Poison Rana by Pac after that. Pac then goes for the German on Matt. The Lucha Bros go for the Fear Factor, and then Phoenix goes for the Tornado on the outside. Penta then climbs up the ladder, but then Matt Jackson brings him back down. Pac and Penta then pick up. I completely... There were so many spots in this match that I completely botched my notes. We got a super kick party by the Bucks. We got a Northern Light suplex, series of Northern Light suplexes by Matt on Phoenix. Then the final suplex landed on the ladder. Nick is on the top, and then Penta has on the table onto the outside. We get a 450 splash onto the table, onto the outside on Penta. Matt then climbs the ladder. Alex Abrahantes comes in and knocks down Matt. Brandon Cutler comes in and he sprays Alex Abrahantes. And then Kenny comes in and hits a V-trigger on Alex Abrahantes. So great little comedy in that portion of the match. He sets up the ladder, and then Pac gets the hammer. Of course, that was the story throughout this entire Best of 7 series. After that, Pac goes for the Falcon Arrow onto the floor. But then Pac climbs up, and then Matt Jackson goes up. The Lucha Brothers set up another ladder, and they set it in between the ladder. So it's between the ropes and the other ladder that is set up in the center of the ring. After that, Pac climbs up. Then Penta walks the ladder, and Penta goes for the Fear Factor onto the ladder. Phoenix climbs up, but then Kenny comes up. Kenny picks up Phoenix, and this motherfucker hits the one Winged Angel off the ladder down to the mat. We get a cover. Well, I shouldn't say cover. Kenny climbs up. It takes a while for him to get the belts, but he manages to get the belts. And the Elite are your new AEW Trios champions. Of course, they are the first Trios champions. And then the next night, a couple days later, they were stripped of the titles because of the story that everybody knows already. And now they worked their way back up, and they are now, once again, the Trios champions. Overall thoughts on this match. This was a great match overall. Concludes the Best of 7 series. What are the Elite going to be doing now? Who are they going to feud with? A lot of people are saying the House of Black. But if you're going to feud with the House of Black, do it right. And if you're going to have them feud with the House of Black, I hope that they actually give them a pure focus. Give the House of Black a pure focus and not just have them lose to the Elite. But overall, this ladder match was absolutely brutal and absolutely amazing in my opinion. But yeah, that was match 7 of the Elite versus Death Triangle in the Best of 7 series for the Trios title, in which it was Escalera de la Muerte. Overall thoughts on Dynamite. Overall, fantastic show overall. The only things that I just didn't like was the JAS segment and Mercedes Moné not showing up, but I gave you guys my stance on that already. But overall, this show was an absolute banger, and next week's is going to be a banger as well. As I've stated at the end of last week's review, AEW is starting off 2023 with a bang, and I'm absolutely, genuinely excited to see what the future holds for AEW in the near future. But yeah, that was my AEW Dynamite review from January 11th, 2022. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, Push that bell for notifications and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the Wrestle Havoc podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. But as always, it is Flamin' Rick from the Wrestle Havoc podcast, signing out.